Trigger warning. This video discusses sexual violence and mentions rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, bullying, and verbal abuse. Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I'll be talking about Junot Diaz, male authors and violence. From the 25th of April until the 1st of May, I was off social media because I'd gotten robbed. So I wasn't really updated about everything. But when I came back, I read the allegations against Junot Diaz by Zinzi Clemens, who I believe, and I believe every other woman who came with their stories about how Junot Diaz treated them and sexually harassed them or sexually assaulted them. But before that, what had happened is that I'd read Junot Diaz's piece on it's on the New Yorker called The Legacy of Childhood Trauma. Basically, he talks about how he was raped as a kid and how this basically influenced or impacted his relationships with women all those years, where he was hurting people along his journey to redemption, I guess, and how he talks really bravely about all of this. But as I've read through Twitter and everything, people are talking about how he basically used this moment to just deflect from all of his actions, and I believe that narrative as well. And particularly what I wanted to talk about is the first Junot Diaz book that I read was This Is How You Lose Her. And what I felt while I was reading that book was that it felt so familiar, because it's the kind of violence that I am used to as well. As much as I'm not in proximity to males all the time, they have an impact on my life. They enact patriarchal violence in my life, all those kind of things. And so I felt that it was familiar, and I felt that it was honest. But on my way to, because I was like, here is a male author finally who actually knows how to talk about men, who knows how to write about men and all the actions that they do and all the shit that they cause, basically. But on my other side, at the back of my mind, I was like, how does he know, how does he write so much about this, so well about this? Has he done this, basically? And in particularly, I'm looking at Unia, who makes an appearance throughout all of Junot Diaz's books. So I think the first book that Junot Diaz published was Drown, and then This Is How You Lose Her, and The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde was the final book in this trilogy. And Unia makes an appearance throughout all of those books. And I remember in one of my book reviews mentioning that one of the book reviews that I'd watched, someone was like, Unia had finally redeemed himself. And I was like, no, because Unia is a serial cheater. He causes harm everywhere that he goes. He doesn't know how to take responsibility for his actions. He's always just moaning, or he doesn't ever take responsibility. He's always causing harm along the way, because he did that to Lola, for example. So what I'm always skeptical of doing when I'm reading authors of color is not thinking that the book is based on their experiences, because it's a general thing where authors of color are not asked about their actual work. We always have a way of putting their experience on the actual work, which is a valid thing, because as authors, people actually do that. But at the same, so I was really skeptical. I don't want to put Unia as Junot Diaz, but now that I've reflecting on everything that's happening, it actually makes sense that he did this. He is Unia, basically, because he mentions in The Legacy of Childhood Trauma that he dated so many people, and along the way he was cheating. And serial cheating is abuse. It's something that we think that it's a joke, but it is abuse. And I think it's about time that we make that connection, because along the way you hurt people. And what I also I'm going to try and find all the links to all the women who've come come with their stories, and I'll put them on the description below. But someone also mentioned that, how do you know misogyny so well if you're not a misogynist? How do you write about misogyny so well if you're not a misogynist? And I think one of the most amazing, not most amazing pieces, but a piece that really struck and stayed with me is by Brianna Al Urina Ravello on Medium, which I'll put again on the link on the description below. It's titled "In the Darkness Men," it's not titled that, but then it's one of the quotes. "In the darkness men leave behind the woman and emerge in the light, clean and free." So she basically is looking at how Junot used his childhood trauma as an excuse to sexually harass and bully women. And it also goes towards that whole thing of hurt people. And like, while you can understand that, like, if you're a hurt person or you went through something, there is a likelihood that you will hurt another person, but it's not a good approach to take when you could just be like, your experience, so you should be more empathetic to the experiences of other people. And yeah, so she also like just basically looks at how while Junot Diaz's story is important, because she speaks about how it's breaking a barrier and presumptions about what the typical victim and survivalhood looks like, and it's challenging the white cis straight woman mold. But I think at the same time is that we mustn't be too afraid to point out that black men rape, firstly, and okay, black men are victims as well. Like victimhood doesn't look a certain way, but it's something that we're always afraid of, like, saying out loud, especially as, I won't say black women because I'm not really a black woman, but I mean, I don't identify with that spectrum. And it's, as I was saying, it's something that we shouldn't be afraid of talking about, because it always goes back to the whole thing of how we shouldn't be talking about those experiences, because it sheds a negative light on black men. But the truth is, they do that. White men rape, black men rape. A rapist doesn't have a specific look. It can be anyone. So yeah, I believe all of the women that came across with their stories. I really believe everyone, and I don't think they should downplay their trauma. Their trauma is valid. You don't have to be a victim of rape. That trauma is valid as well. But any sexual violence, if he sexually harassed you, if he bullied you, if he verbally abused you, or forced himself on you, any kind of thing, it's valid, and I believe you.